Swayam Vishnu Paramahansa Parivarajika Sharya Sutara Satvasi Sivan His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktimarga Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Jai Jai. Is it alright if we do like 3 minutes of japa? Do you do that sometimes? Okay, alright. Hare Krishna everyone, it's a pleasure to be here. I just came back from Cuba for a week and I go every year to help our mission there. And it's a little warmer there. I was just on the beach. And you can be envious as much as you like. and a little sunshine and something like that. But there's austerities too. Okay, so let us get our beads out if you have them. And if you don't, then let's just get into the mantra. Most of you know it already. Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
Krishna
Krishna.
Krishna
Krishna.
Hare
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 Rama
Rama.
Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama.
Rama
Rama.
Rama
Rama.
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Okay, let's do it together in unison. We'll spend 3 minutes on this. I guess somebody can time it for us. And if you like, you can close your eyes for this, just to concentrate on the sound. Is that okay? Sit with your back, neck, and head erect in a straight line, and concentrate on the sound vibration, which is very purifying. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama
Little volume.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki Jai. Thank you so much for participating. Jai. This is the, winter's begun and the days are getting very short and the snow is out there. And for devotees in the Hare Krishna movement, it's always a sign that we step up in our giving. So the theme these days is be a giver. And what do we give? We give wisdom, knowledge, that which has come to us from Krishna. It's one of the first activities that ever took place since creation. Brahma was the first created being. He sat on a lotus flower. He was in meditation and somewhat suspended in the air, and he was wondering what to do with himself. And the message got through, he must perform some tapasya. And he was then, from there on, enlightened. Tene Brahma Rida is the term that's used in the first verse of the Bhagavad Purana, Srila Bhagavatam, that he received wisdom and he was able to, let's say, assimilate it and put it into action. So then he started to create the world. Great things, a very empowered being. So we're going to choose a verse from the Bhagavad Gita that's about giving. And as you know, it's also the month of many occurrences. One of them being the anniversary of when Krishna spoke the immortal truth to his dear warrior friend Arjuna on the ancient battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is south of the Himalayan mountains, and which was a favorable time. If you're going to have a war, you might as well have it this time of the year, because it's a little bit cool, And the area, if you've ever been there at Kurukshetra, the topography, the terrain is pretty flat, so that makes it very, let's say, good for chariots to mill over. And so for all those reasons. So we're going to look at the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and we're going to look at one verse which talks about giving. Okay, so here it is, 10:10. And you can follow me with the Sanskrit if you like. I think we can do it. Tesham satata yuktanam Vajatam pritipurvakam Dadami buddhi yogam tam Yenamam upayante te Tesham unto them Satata yuktanam always engaged Vajatam in rendering devotional service Pritipurvakam in loving ecstasy Dadami I give Buddhi yogam real intelligence Tam that Yena by which Mam unto me Upayanti come Te they Here's what it looks like when you put it all together. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. To those
to those
who are constantly devoted
who are constantly devoted
to serving me with love.
to serving me with love.
I give
I give
the understanding
the understanding
by which they can come to me.
by which they can come to me.
This is Lord Krishna speaking, and here's the purport by Srila Prabhupada. We might charade it out a little bit. In this verse, the word Buddha Yogam is very significant. We may remember that in the second chapter, the Lord, instructing Arjuna, said that he had spoken to him of many things, and that he would instruct him in the way of Buddha Yoga. Now, Buddha Yoga is explained. Buddha Yoga itself is action in
Krishna.
consciousness. That is the higher
Thinking.
intelligence. Buddhi means intelligence, and yoga means mystic activities or mystic
Yoga. Power. Elevation.
elevation. Good. When one tries to
Go back home
home
back
to
Godhead.
and takes fully to Krishna consciousness and devotional service, his action is called Buddha Yoga. In other words, Buddha Yoga is the process by which one gets out of the
Material. Entanglement.
entanglement of this
Material.
world. The ultimate goal of progress is,
Krishna.
people do not know this. Therefore, the association of devotees and a bona fide spiritual master are important. One should know that the goal is
Krishna.
and when the goal is assigned, then the path is slowly but progressively traversed, and the ultimate goal is achieved. When a person knows the goal of life but is addicted to the fruits of activities, he is acting in karma yoga. When he knows that the goal is Krishna, but he takes pleasure in mental speculations to understand Krishna, he is acting in jnana yoga. And when he knows the goal and
Sees. Looks. Scours. Scans. Searches. Looking. Scans.
Finding, wondering.
give me S, seeks, yeah. And when he knows the goal and seeks Krishna completely in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, he is acting in Bhakti Yoga or Buddha Yoga, which is the complete yoga. This complete yoga is the highest perfectional stage of life. A person may have a bona fide spiritual master, may be
Holding on. Gripping.
attached to a spiritual organization, but if he is
Steady. Still.
but if he's still not intelligent enough to make progress, then
Krishna.
from within gives him instructions so that he may ultimately come to him without difficulty. The qualification is that a person always
engage
himself in Krishna consciousness and with love and devotion. Render all kinds of services. He should perform some sort of work for Krishna, and that work should be with love. If a devotee is not intelligent enough to make progress on the path of self-realization, but is sincere and devoted to the activities of devotional service, the Lord gives him a chance to make progress and ultimately attain to him. Hare Krishna. One of the best verses and best purports in the entire Bhagavad Gita, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. Namo Vishwadaya Krishna Shaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitanandi Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shinyavari Paschachari Shatarini. So one question comes to mind for people on the spiritual path. What is usually demanded of the practitioner is you have to give a lot. You give your time, maybe you to be a member of the organization, you have to give some donations, and then much more is wanted. You have to give up, not give, but up. So high up that you can't get it back again. In the early days, devotees, they used to come and say, I gave up my guitar, I gave up my girlfriend, I gave up, my apartment, I gave this and that and this and that. And that was the mood in those days, that surrender means to do all those things. Then in hindsight, after some years, you realize, well, maybe I could have kept a few of those things. And I could have used them in Krishna service to attract people and so on like that. So many things get misinterpreted. An important point is about this giving. So on the other end, the recipient is Krishna. He's on the receiving end. He's receiving things. And like millennials, if you talk to millennials, usually their question is, a big question, okay, so what do I get out of it? Right? That's kind of like a joke. No offense to millennials here. But that's oftentimes what comes out of one's thought process. What do I get in return? I am giving, what am I getting back out of it? It's answered in this, one of the key verses of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, what we're looking at right now. Krishna Dadami, he gives. He is giving. And what is he giving? Intelligence. If you're given intelligence, I'm talking about devotional intelligence, pure intelligence. It's one of the greatest gifts you could ever get. Santa Claus could never pull that out of his bag, And because intelligence is what gets you through, Many things that people do in life, decisions are based on hormones or your head. And one person recently said to me, I'm just doing things from my heart. Usually heart means hormones. That's really. But the head is very important, the intelligence is very important. It has been given to us for proper usage. And so now, in terms of, the equation and looking at what I receive in return for all this giving, I will be also receiving. At this time of the year, devotees all over the world are distributing books, Bhagavad Gitas. I can remember selling a set of Krishna books. They were like this larger than that even actually, and to a boy, and he became a devotee. And I feel so, wow, I was an instrument in that, person coming around. And so a lot of beautiful things come out of these endeavors. When I was in Cuba, we actually married a couple in the woods. We had a wedding in the woods, under the avocado tree. No problem, no avocados fell down. And I asked them, how did you get involved? They were a real nice couple, super nice. Jorge, and her name is Elizabeth. George and Elizabeth, okay, it was the king and the queen that were around not long ago with those names. And so they did look like king and queen, under the avocado tree as we were marrying them. I asked them how they got involved in Krishna consciousness. And they said, well, we went to the book fair, by Shishikaprabhu and others, and Hanuman, who was with the BBT, had arranged that in Havana, there would be a book fair where we would be able to participate in the book fair. That's what I mean to say. So BBT put a lot of Spanish books there, invested in it. Actually, the Canadian Yatra contributed a lot. We contributed a lot to the book, for the books, and even to air tickets. Just to let you know that we're into giving. And so they didn't have any money to spend on any books, but they did see the books, and they were immediately drawn, this couple, to wanting to read and to explore and go into another world, So they just kept the information of the devotees who were selling at the book fair, and eventually they got some books. They made contact with devotees, and they started to read, and their whole life has changed now. They've just got a whole new life. And this is just a recent story, just recent. So in other remote places, this is going on. People's lives change. The people are looking. They're actually looking for something. And they don't know exactly what it is, but there's something innate in everybody. And that innateness is knowledge, wisdom, getting a sense of who you are, sense of real identity, not the false one. I am not the body. That's what Prabhupada teaches. It still rings in my head. You can see it on some of the tapes. He says, "We are not these bodies!" You know, like he's like almost like a fire and brimstone preacher. And he's trying to really resonate that out there. And really so that we can get a hold of that concept that we are not these bodies. And if we are not, then what is our real identity? Well, it's something of the anti-material. And it is what we call a spirit, Atma, you know, which is a mysterious thing, hard to understand. Second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is also talking to Arjuna about the nature of the soul, and people study it, they try to explore, and even after doing some investigation on the nature of the soul, they still can't grasp it, they can't live by it, you know. Their addictions are strong to materialistic endeavors. So, maybe next life. A nice term that we can use. Devotees, I hear devotees say something. Next life, then. Okay. But don't use that as an excuse to be too laid back about your Krishna consciousness and your spiritual development. Because it's understood that one of the purposes behind successive lives is that you're given another opportunity. The soul takes an opportunity at the time of death to be in another body. In one sense, you know, death is superficial. It doesn't exist. It's just not. Doesn't exist. Sleeping, yes. Going to sleep. Death means really going to sleep. And then you wake up and you're, wow, a new world. A new mommy and a new daddy. And new blankets. And, you know, a little teddy bear to, you know. And a whole new experience. And so we use that term sometimes. We give it another chance, and maybe next life, yes. It does cause some people to be a little complacent. I don't have to work too hard because Krishna's, you know, I got a special connection with him, and I will be able to have another shot at it. You know, that's his policy. But Krishna is, he's very analytical, and he's seated in the heart of all living beings. That comes out in the Bhagavad Gita in so many different places. I am seated in the heart of all living entities. And Upadrashtanumantascha, he's the overseer, overpermitter, and giver. What does he give? He gives, what registers with him what our desire is. So, was that, you have that desire? Okay, we'll try to help you with that. It's not the best thing for you, but we'll put you in the right department that it will be fulfilled. And when we're very insistent and persistent in wanting something, usually you get what you want. Mm-hmm. And then after that, there's some regret that, well, I got what I wanted, but maybe that's not what I wanted. Maybe that's not what I wanted after all. And then Prabhupada tells the story of Sanatana Goswami, who met up with a friend. Sanatana was in meditation, and this one particular person who was heard about a touchstone, that if you touch anything with the stone, it'll turn into gold. And so he worked with that, and through some, you know, chemical transformation, things turn into gold if you have the right metals. And he got what he wanted. But he didn't get what he wanted, you know, because he didn't really know what he wanted. He asked, where can I find this touchstone? I understand you know where it is. Sanatana Goswami said, oh, it's in the garbage heap over there. He says, really? Isn't there? Yeah, it's just over there. So he went and dug up like some dog, you know. And finally, I got it. What a great treasure. So then he went through life, which turned into a nightmare, and that's usually what happens when you're just dependent on things. And then he came back to Sanatana Goswami after being worn out and exhausted. And he said, listen, I just have to talk to you kind of in private, and if that's okay, very confidentially. When I met you a long time ago, I understood that you knew where there was this touchstone, and that it would give me all the happiness that the world could offer. And but I found out it has a dead end. It's a cul-de-sac program. And so now, can you tell me really? I have to ask in hindsight, what is this thing about it being in the garbage? I should have learned something from that. Is that correct? Sanatana Swami. Yes. And then, so can you tell me what the real touchstone is in life? What's the real, most precious item that exists in the world? So looking at the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Shukadeva Goswami is speaking to his student, Parikshit, he's saying, Kalera dosha nidhi rajam yastiga mahan guna kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangha param brajit. Just to paraphrase, the verse is saying that the world in which we live is a heap of trash. That's what it is. And but there's one good thing that you can find in it, and that one good thing is kirtanad eva krishnasya. It's this culture of chanting, and I say culture, I'm talking in a broad sense, because with chanting, it implies a number of people coming together and having a good time, a number of people coming together and getting purified. It's clean fun, and it's purifying at the same time. What a good package deal! You don't get such deals. It's priceless. Really, that's what it is. So the Karmi friend of Sanatana Goswami actually then indulged in the chanting, and his life was finally Shanti, Shanti, Shanti Hari Om, Shanti. He became peaceful. And he realized something, but he had to go through the whole gamut of activities before he could understand what it means to get real happiness. Does that sound like a familiar story to some of you folks? Yeah? Okay, how many people have gone through something similar in those lines, tried different things and gone different avenues, and also bought into the Christmas thing and the Halloween
Black Friday.
And the Black Friday now, and nothing against Jesus Christ. He'd be just, I think if he came for a visit and saw what Kristen was saying, I'm going right back to the spiritual world. So it has become highly commercialized, and it's lost a heart. It's lost, the heart stopped somewhere. And so it's interesting that some of us came from a Judeo-Christian background, and that was the time of the year that you do give stuff. But we didn't lose a grip by coming to Krishna consciousness. We didn't lose traction in the way of that. Still, there has to be some giving at this time of the year. There's an impulse there. So every year, usually it falls in our, by the solar calendar in December, and that's the time that we are to give, to share our wisdom that we know. This is very simple things that we know. Then Krishna consciousness is not that complicated. It really is not. It's not that sophisticated. In many ways, it's not that deep. When we talk about Krishna and gopis and them having a nice time, and Krishna having some kind of argument with Rukmini, then it goes a little deeper because it's involving relationships, but really it's not that complicated. Thank God. And people of Kali Yuga are not that sophisticated. We really are not. There are not many Gyanis here. There are not many people who have that complicated brain, that are not that analytical. We just need to know a few basic fundamental truths about life, and then we're good to go. We're actually good to go. It's not that problematic. We know that in former ages it was difficult. It was a little more sophisticated. You did have to take up jnanam, which means meditation, and do that for a long, stretched out time. under sometimes not the best conditions physically. And then when it comes to Dwapara Yuga, the period just before Kali Yuga, the age in which we live, it was temple worship, it was puja, it was elaborate this, elaborate that, and you had to chant mantras very perfectly, you know, and not skip a beat, and get all the pronunciation down, otherwise, you know, kind of almost backfires on you. So it's very complicated, so thank God we have a nice system. And the end result is, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And we get to establish a relationship. In most people's minds, it's all about relationships. People just want to have a good connection with somebody. But unfortunately, in this world, most relationships are quite disappointing. And you have to settle for half of what you wanted, or even a quarter of what you wanted to get out of it, you know. So then in the final analysis, you say, well, with Krishna, it's a little different. It's very personal. He's always there for you. And of course that takes a little bit of an art to communicate with him. And it has to be done through a process, through a system, through other people. So in the due course, it's not just a relationship with Krishna, it's a relationship with a whole bunch of other people before you get to his, you know, to get to him. Just like anybody who wanted to visit Krishna in Dwarka, the grand city, they'd have to go through a gate, they'd have to go through various, barriers, I don't want to say that, but various channels before you finally get to see him, if you get to see him, because Krishna's very busy. In the Nectar of Devotion, there's really nice passages there about Brahma. So one devotee comes to try to get his attention. That's okay, could you just stand in the queue a little bit? Brahma's there and Shiva, they're also waiting for, a little bit of attention. So could you mind just standing in the queue a little bit? But the nice thing about standing in the queue is the queue is called parampara. And, you've got all this illustrious, company suddenly. That's not that bad staying in that kind of a queue. Has anybody ever stood in a queue in India?
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as a queue in India? There is not. It is push and pull, and I know it's a sad laughter that's coming this way, but it's tough standing in line. I like coming to Ottawa when I take the train, and I like everything about it except for standing in the queue, like that. And I've worked it out. I was very smart about it. I've got my seat. They've got a lot of room for baggage. I don't have to stand in the queue. I'll be smart about it, I just sit down and I do my japa or do a little reading, and then when the line starts to fizzle away, then, my turn to get in there. So, but it's good to be in the queue. You have to get into the queue to get in. And there's that lineage, we call it a chain sometimes. A chain implies many different things. Sometimes it has negative connotations. Like you're a ball and chain, you're a prisoner and you can't move because there's a weight on you. But chain may also imply freedom. If you're trying to haul something, it's just good to have a chain or some kind of hook, somewhat kind of device to connect your vehicle to the U-Haul in your town. Russell, they have a big U-Haul thing, and so it's good to have to be connected, and that's such a big word now. It is such a classy word, connected, to be connected. I remember the first time I was doing the walk across the country, and I was still in BC, and one lady, she pulled over and she said, "Is there anything I can do for you?" She was like a sort of a granola girl, and I said, anything I can do? I said, well, I'm just doing a walk across Canada. I said, oh, I thought it was something like that. Oh, well, I'm just going to go back to my vehicle and then I'll drive somewhere and I'll connect with the river. So the word connect, you know, at least that time, maybe it wasn't as popular as it is now, but making the right connections are important. Even to get a good job, it's who you know, that's oftentimes what they say. You can send hundreds of resumes to companies, but sometimes it's just who you know. Like if there's a friend, a connection there somewhere in an institution, and they may try to, your friend, your amigo may try to get you in a position there that's somewhat vacant, and it's all in who you know. So who do we know? Or who are we trying to know?
Krishna.
Yeah, we're trying to know him, and we're trying to know his associates. His associates are Guru, Sadhu. Shastra is also a friend. Shastra means scripture, and it's also a friend. That's what Prabhupada has tried to help us to understand, is that these are your friends, you know? And they are, a friend usually is there to provide safety, comfort, a trust in, you buy into some kind of trust with a friend, and despite any difficulty, the friend is there for you. And have you ever been in a situation where you don't know what's going on with your life, you know, things, you're a little bit on a stressed out mode, and you're wondering, where can I find an answer to my question? I need a sense of direction in life. So, okay, all you have to do is oftentimes it happens very randomly. Just, you know, you just take the Bhagavad Gita, you open up. I did that randomly, by the way. And then I look at one sentence, I say, oh my God, the answer's right there. The big question that I had about life, it's right there, it's right here in this, you know. So mystically, these kind of things happen. Has that ever happened to you?
All the time.
All the time. When those kind of little things happen, those little miracles happen, does it not increase your faith a little bit? Doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember visiting my sister, this is quite some time ago, at Christmas time, and she had an encyclopedia set. That's when hard copies were important. And by the way, like what Shankar does here, it's so easy, just grab what you need here. Randomly pick out something off the shelf and the answer will come to you. So I hadn't seen my sister for a long time, and we were looking at one word. I remember we were talking about the miracle of Lourdes in France. You know, many miracles took place. So she went to her encyclopedia, and she went to where she thought the L was going to go, you know, where the L would be. And suddenly the page opened up, and it was in the K section, and her eyes landed right on the word Krishna.
Oh, no.
And then she told me about this later, and she said, sometimes you wonder. And I said, yeah. You had a moment, you had a great moment there. So it's really important for us to be connected to a school of thought, you know, the Bhakti school, coming down from the headmaster, which is Brahma, and in that chain of disciplic succession. Be connected to that group, and have the Guru, have the sadhus, and in this way we get closer to Krishna. That's another thing that Krishna's gave. He gives himself, but he also gives his devotees. That's the greatest gift. And we are, although it is said sometimes, you are worshippers of God. I went to a funeral the other day, and I knew this lady, she was about 90, she lived in the temple for a while, did a lot of cooking, and she turned me on to cooking green bananas, sabji. I don't know, whoa, succulent. And so her niece, I got to know her for a little bit. She was always a little bit confused and a little different from other people. A little bit like, a different person in the clan. And the first thing she said, Maharaj, I'm an atheist. This is okay. Fine, you know. So people find their different paths, and the problem with being an atheist is that you don't have this great company, and maybe the direction isn't necessarily to get clean, to get your heart purified so that you can go to some very fine destinations. I mean, where will atheism land you? Maybe in Sattvagun. And Sattvagun is not necessarily good enough, not for Krishna. He created Sattvagun, Rajagun, Tamagun. I've got atheistic friends, and they say, I think it's just important to be a good person, that's all. I don't believe in anything. And don't put me in a category. I don't even want to. I'm not an atheist. I'm not a theist. I'm not an agnostic. I'm not this. I'm in no category. Don't put me in a box. There are people like that. This is a growing culture, actually. It's a growing culture. And this also discouraged me to know this, that there's a growing culture of not believing. How to resolve those kind of things, at least in my mind, I thought, okay. But Krishna consciousness is growing, and many other different branches of paths of loving the Supreme are also growing. So, and everything's growing. Let's put it that way. That seems to be like the forest. Everything grows there. Maybe that's kind of natural. What we do, our role in terms of givers, is that whatever we felt we have achieved in Krishna consciousness, we like to share that with somebody else. We like to tell them. It's a nice social, Prabhupada calls it social intercourse with each other. To be able to speak to each other about what we've gained from Krishna consciousness, and you share that kind of excitedly, almost like a young puppy. I've got, you know, or when young boy, young girl, and they're first getting excited about each other's first experience in life, and they're all excited. They're in cloud 9 and all that. So it's a little bit like that when you first explore Krishna consciousness. I've got something that I cherish, and I want to share it with you. So this brings us to the point of being in the giving mode. And by the way, this 10:10, it does kind of land right in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita. So if you like to put your finger in the middle, it may take you to this verse 10:10. And because it is very powerful, and it's very clear here that Krishna is giving. It's not all about me surrendering. It's also about Krishna surrendering. Have you ever thought about that? Krishna also surrenders. I mean, you might say it's not a big deal for him, but he's been waiting for a long time. He's also standing in a cube. He's waiting there in his cubicle. That's called your heart. Says, when are you going to get it together? Yeah. And then finally, we make that decision. Okay, it will be now. And the Lord is exceedingly happy. And this is what makes it a relationship. When Krishna is giving, we are giving, and he is giving. It's a two-way street. By the way, I hate one-way streets. If you're driving a car, if you're a pedestrian, it's not a problem, because you can go any which way. I just always have to do a plug-in for walkers, pedestrians. But two-way streets are very valuable, you know, because people have time. Well, somebody told me I have a godbrother who lives in Hamilton, and he said when they made the streets one way, the traffic just went so fast, all the businesses died out, because people weren't taking their time to slowly go and park there, you know, make a turn, wait, like that. You just can like zoom through in the mode of passion. So it can kill downtowns, you know. We are told sometimes that it's a one-way. There's, I mean, the, what is it? Kalona Stevana Stevana Stevakartiranyata Hare Nama
You're familiar with that verse? Harinama, Harinama, Kevalam. Kalona Steva, no Steva, no Steva, Gatiranyata. And that means that there's no other way. There's only one way. And that sounds very narrow and can be somewhat discouraging. But now, how Prabhupada explains chanting Hare Krishna must be understood in many branched ways. Chanting Hare Krishna means when you're like washing the pots after the Sunday feast. That I have to put a little plug in for, help. I like to do it. But anyways, that is chanting Hare Krishna, cleaning the washroom in the public form. That is, let's say in the temple, that is a service, and it is a glorious service if you take it with the right heart. That is chanting Hare Krishna. This is the way Prabhupada has interpreted chanting Hare Krishna. It's doing many, many different services, and this is what makes the Supreme Personality of God very, very happy. In fact, what resonated with me in this purport is where Prabhupada is speaking about the various services that can be rendered. It's not just limited to one thing. No. And sometimes devotees, they talk about Varna and Ashram. You're familiar with that? The 4 social and spiritual orders. We have to get all structured about it. We have to get very organized about it and plan and, again, make boxes and set up departments. I talked to some of my peers in Sharanagati recently about this. We're all basically on the same page. No, it's not. I don't think you have to organize. People are already in their boxes. They simply have to add Krishna to their career, to their whatever they're doing, whatever they have gravitated towards, and then everything will fall into place very nicely. That is really the Varnashram system, where Krishna is at the center, and he's to be pleased. Samsiddhi Hari Toshanam. Please Krishna. This is what Varna and Ashram means. Some people feel validated, we have to do something, we have to be very organized about it because the word Varnashram appears more than chanting Hare Krishna in the books. Thousands of times Prabhupada brings it up. Of course, it does require going more towards a simple lifestyle, going more towards like rural existence, being closer to the earth and being closer to the animals. Yeah. Did you know that we have about 8 farm initiatives between Montreal and Toronto? Owned by Grihastas. 8 that have just cropped up in the last pretty much like 5 years, including the place in Montreal that the devotees acquired. Isn't that something? So some people got to understand that they have come to terms with this truth, that we have to go simple. So thank you very much. We are just trying to say, if you have the opportunity, the time, and the know-how, try to get some books out there. There are different initiatives for, like sponsoring the Shastradan, and there's so many other ways. Now Bhagavatam sets are being sold en masse, and do yourself a favor, read, and encourage others to read. I also sometimes wonder, how long will hard copies be available? It's a little bit of a concern. On the other hand, libraries are still popular enough, and books are on the shelves, and I'd like to have something in my hands that I can flip and I can refer back to, and I don't want to necessarily deal with a screen that just everything wipes off. Where did it go? So books they're going to hang in there for a while. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So do we do some questions? Q&A sessions here? Does anybody have any questions at all? Anything that comes to mind? It's definitely something coming to mind.
I don't know.
He doesn't know. He has a question.
That's a good place to start from.
I don't
Not
know.
knowing. Then there's an opportunity to know. But if somebody says, I know it all, then you can't go anywhere with such an individual. There's nowhere to go. So to admit, I'm not quite sure at this point in time. I'm confused. Yes, Anthony.
What is the difference between Buddhi Yoga and Bhakti Yoga?
Buddhi Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, they are synonymous. Bhakti Yoga means the yoga of devotion, and Buddhi means intelligence. So it's intelligent, why? To take the Bhakti Yoga process, because first of all, it satisfies all the needs of what jnana has to offer, which is cultivation of knowledge. Dhyana, meditation. Karma yoga, which is to kind of get down to your fruitive needs. So, therefore, Krishna says, Samayukta Tamomataha, that it is the end of all yoga systems, is Bhakti Yoga. So therefore we call it the intelligent process. I met somebody yesterday who walked up the CN Tower, and I said, how long did it take you? You know, so it was 22 minutes or something. I said, what's the record? So somebody did it for 10 minutes or something. I said, okay, that's great, but is it really the intelligent thing to do? From a health perspective, it may be very good, but if you're trying to get somewhere and be efficient and meet your appointment, maybe it's good to take the elevator. So Bhakti Yoga is called the Buddhi Yoga system. It's the intelligent way to do things. And another reason is because, you know, we all sometimes hear about all the different personalities called demigods. They are satisfied if you go to the chief. If you just go to the guy at the top, everything's okay. Our godbrother Jayananda would sometimes need things for, you know, constructing his raths. And when he was in New York, that famous Rath Yatra, that would be 1976, he'd go to the guy, you know, who would be responsible. He needed some kind of tools. So he just made his way. He just had that drive to go to the guy at the top. You know, the top office, the guy with the slick desk, and who would say, hey, I like you. You're bold. I'll give you what you want. Help, get him what he wants, you know, like that. So going to the top is the way to go. However, we do have a process, and that is, you know, instead of going through various devatas, we still have, there's still a protocol, and that is work with some people on your ground level instead of the clouds. That would be a good piece of advice. Don't have your head in the clouds too much about Krishna consciousness. Do have your feet on the ground. That means be practical and use your intelligence. Don't be too dreamy about Krishna consciousness. It's just not going to work. We sometimes call that premature transcendence. Yes?
Earlier you mentioned something about how death is not really existent, that you just kind of close your eyes and wake up in a new moment.
Yeah.
I've also come across the term moksha and explained in different ways. So is that not the ultimate goal of
Well, the
the
ultimate
cycle?
goal is to be free, and moksha refers to freedom. Different words are used, like freedom, salvation, emancipation, yes, freedom, liberation, salvation, those are words, freedom. And so you're becoming free from birth and death. Yes, that's true. However, it is also known that some of these forms of moksha are not totally permanent. That one may want to, let's say, be promoted to the highest post, which is to be in that relationship with the Supreme. Some mokshas would imply no relationship. You just exist. I am, you are, we are here. That is not what we aspire for. It's not the most intelligent thing. Every soul wants love, that wants end relationship. That has to be established. And so when you study a little bit more Srila Prabhupada's books, you will come to terms with what is the highest form of liberation. Better than liberation is just prema. Prema means love of God, and automatically you're in the safest position. For, some devotees aspire to not be concerned about whether to come back in this world or not. Like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Some people are happy. I want to come back as a devotee. I'm happy to be part of this mission with Prabhupada. I know that there's trials and tribulations in life, but I'd rather come back out of love for Prabhupada and do it maybe a different way, a better way. And I'm not so turned down with the material world that I'm not so anxious to get out of here. I'm okay. Send me wherever you want, Master. Whatever you want, boss. That's the kind of mood. Yes, sir. And if the big boss says, come back into the material world and deal with some devotees. Yes, sir. Like that. And and I love it because it's the best lifestyle there is. There isn't anything better.
It's like being in Goloka Vrindavan.
It is. It's kind of a spiritual world. The service that you render it creates the atmosphere, the ambiance, and everything that is spiritual. Is that okay? All right. In the back.
You mentioned that you have some friends who are atheists.
Yeah.
Any tips on how to handle an association with people
Who are atheists? I think the best thing to do is to show devotions. Show you are devoted, like when it comes to food, you're maybe sitting with an atheist friend and you offer some food, which is a way of saying thanks, and perhaps they don't have that in their program. So why would that be attractive to them? Because you're expressing gratitude and appreciation. And I think that should be a very attractive feature for them as well. I don't think that we have to cower and cater to their way of being. We can maintain our devotion to our deity, to our mantra, and let them maybe, okay, hey, can I do that with you? Can we do it together? Let me try it out. So all we can say is that, why don't you be a little bit exploratory? Let's have some fun. Let's go for some adventure. Simply try it out. And if they're still unwilling, what can you do? But carry on. And they may be inspired. It might click one day. We can't force people. Everyone has their own time. Does that make sense? Okay. Anybody else? Si, senor.
I was just wondering if you could explain what the Hare Krishna mantra means.
Well, there's different ways to interpret that. Srila Prabhupada talks about the Hare as the divine energy, and Krishna refers to the all-attractive person, and just with those two words alone, you're saying, Krishna, please engage me in your divine energy. The flip side of the coin would be, do not lead me into temptation, but allow me to be in the safe territory of service. And the word Rama refers to blissful, so it's service that you like to do. It's not service that you have to do. It's service that you get to do. Yay! I get to do seva. So that's one way to interpret the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, how Prabhupada has expressed it to us. Please, Krishna, you who are all attractive, allow me to engage in devotional service. It pleases you and it pleases all living entities.
Anything else that comes to mind? Yes.
Pranam Maharaj. I want to ask Maharaj, like, for example, we are doing in the Krishna consciousness, and as you said, you are on the cloud. Okay, you are doing everything, you are engaged in devotional service, you are doing chanting, and then suddenly you feel, suddenly one day you feel like, I don't want to do it anymore. And then you are, entangled with so many things around you, like your children, like your responsibility, and you are getting more down and down.
Right.
Now, if you want to come back, what's the process?
The process is to stay in the queue and to stay with the sadhus and to stay in the sangha, association with other people who go through those same kind of pressures as you, but have overcome them. So learn how to overcome. And usually it just takes a little bit of a pep talk, you know. I mean, Arjuna was in this situation. I don't feel like doing this anymore. I'm tired of this job. Same bows and arrows.
Same bows and arrows.
Same horses. You know. And Krishna's giving him an incredible spiritual pep talk. And then after just a few minutes, Arjuna goes, yeah. Thanks a lot, Krishna. I'm glad I'm with you. Had Arjuna gone to the forest, then he would have been really ultra depressed. But he stayed with Krishna. He stayed with him. And he did the right thing. What made Krishna smile is the fact that I said, I'm a little bit broken down at the moment, a little bit depressed. So I see you as being a strong person. Can you help me through this? Krishna said, yeah, sure. Please don't. Huh? And he smiles when Arjuna asks the question. And he says, I'm broken down. I'm weak. Shishastiham shariman twang prapanam, which means I'm your soul surrendered to you, and please help me. So when you reach out for help, that's the ultimate yoga. People do yoga for stretching, but the ultimate stretch is reach out. Amigo, devotee, I'm in a weak moment, my baby is clinging to me and scratching me. I'm feeding them, I'm trying to chant. My husband's giving me a hard time, and on and on and on and on and on and on. So that's a great moment when you just make that phone call, or when you send that email, or you send that little text. Can we talk? Can we talk? Can we talk? 3 words. Can we talk? And usually somebody's close to you will understand. Oh, you need to talk. Okay, we'll talk. So try it. Get into the queue. Because when those things happen, it means you just, yeah, it's like when you do a fire drill in school. When you step out, it's not required. It's not a cool thing to do. Just step back in line. And I remember I was stuck in traffic, and I was supposed to give a Sunday feast lecture. And the person who was driving just decided to go in the lane where you're not supposed to drive. He just, and people were looking, and I sunk, I don't want to be seen, And he just felt the need to. He stepped out of line, but maybe it was for a higher cause. We cannot step out of line. You have to stay on course. If you're playing golf, you got to stay on course. You can't just shoot and just slam the ball against people's windows. You got to stay on the course, the bhakti course. Is that all right? Anything else? Yes.
Another question regarding associations / relationships. From my understanding, ultimately, we need to be treating everybody equal.
Mhm.
At the same time, you have to make discrimination and treat everybody in a different plane, depending on where they are in
Mhm. Right.
So how do you reconcile between treating everybody equal and at the same time?
Well, Vidyavinaya Sampani Brahmani Gavahastini Shuni Chaiva Swapakaja Pandita Samadavishina. A pundit, a wise person, sees that all souls are the same, that God is resting in all spirits. And with that, we have compassion. We have respect for all. But you will also, the way you would treat your parents would be a little different than as to the way you would treat your kid brother or kid sister. Right? It would be different. But you respect all because you understand the spirit behind them. Paramatma's there, God is there. So you love them all, but you treat them slightly a little different. There is a protocol that we have to recognize. There is a pecking order, as they say. And that's culture. That's culture. Because you can't, it's not a flat plateau, that everything's the same. That's not what relationships are truly about, after all, anyways. So a true relationship is about, okay, I'm giving, I'm doing the humble thing, and then the end of the party is receiving, and then they're feeling wonderful on top of the world. Oh, now I have a chance to reciprocate and take a humble position, and I offer something back like that. So even in a relationship, there is, you can say it's equality. In many ways, it's not. You have to give and take, like the old Motown song. You know it? Can't hurry love, no, you just have to wait. Love don't come easy, play that game of give and take. Can't hurry love, so you can't hurry love with Krishna. It has to be a give and take. And that's what it's all about. Take a humble position. Even between Radha and Krishna, it's always a fun competition, Krishna's trying to serve her, and she receives, and then she's trying to serve him, more humble than he is, and then he said, no, I gotta be more humble. No, I gotta be. So in this way, it's a fun operation. So culture, when we talk about culture, that's where it's a little more complex, sophisticated, refined. Well, we see that everyone is valued, meaning that there's a soul there. We have a different etiquette towards different people. If you're in a room and, like we're going to be serving prasadam, and we get a chance to, you can be equal to everybody, but maybe the kids need something first. And that's where Prabhupada said, serve the children first. Or they'll go nuts on you anyways. So go where there's the need first, and then you're serving your babies, your kids, like you're serving this little guy here, because he's fidgety and he's running around and he can't stand hearing an old guy like me giving a class. He just doesn't have the patience, So be kind to him, and he's got to be at the front of the line for receiving the prasadam. Does that make sense? When we lose sophistication, we lose culture. And we lose culture when we just treat everybody the same. But like, with your mom or your dad, you can't just treat them like this. Surely they're friends, but they're also mature friends. They have maturity that we don't have. They've got experience that we don't have. So we have to respect experience. Hare Krishna. Good questions, by the way. Very good. Anything else comes to mind? Yes,
Well, just on that same topic, it's talking a lot in this verse about love, about, I guess, showing those people, even if you are in association with them, to at least, share some loving relationships just for the soul, or by doing some service for them, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, the word love it does bring up here, and because one of the reasons why it is a beautiful verse with the accompanying purport is that love has to be demonstrated. Just like Patran Pushpan Palam Zoyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachiti Tadaham Bhaktya Karatam Ashnami Prayatat Manaha. The word giving is also in that verse from chapter 9. Krishna is saying, give to me with love and devotion, live flower, fruit, or water, and I will accept it. The love is the main ingredient. It's what makes everything rise, like baking a cake. You have to have a leavener, something that will make it rise. You have to put an agent in there. So the ultimate agent is bhakti, love. And then everything will come up. Anything else? Like for me, salt has to be in the subject, otherwise, God, don't serve it out. Okay, that's good. What do we do now?
Your time.
All right. How long is it for? Okay. So thank you very much. I hope you have a very nice holiday season and that you will have some success with the distribution of knowledge from the books that just go on. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And what we'll ask you to do is, before we get started, that we'll be doing with the recent audiences, we'll do a little bit of yoga, okay? It's called facial yoga, okay? So what you do is sit straight and tall, look miserable, look totally miserable. Ishwari Keshavi will like this, his yoga teacher. Look totally miserable. So what you do is, while you're looking miserable, put your hands up over your head, like this, clasp them together, with the thumbs together. Now lower your palms down and put your thumbs down on your forehead. Slide the two thumbs down and ski slope off the nose and land on the lips. Okay? Now, stretch your hands out like this. And with the lips stretched out like this. And then you're smiling. Facial yoga. Haribol. Okay, and here's one more. Okay, so you're sitting down already, okay? That's what we'll do. Okay, so go up like this. Okay. And with your two knees down next to each other. And then place the right hand in front of you. And then the left hand in front on the floor, flat, facing the floor, and with the upper part of the hands facing the ceiling. Okay, now lower your heads down slowly to the floor and simply repeat after me. Vanchakopa Sindubhyascha, Vipapa Sindubhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Haribol, thank you so much. Haribol. Hare Krishna.